like this election? Insanity? Give me your general thoughts on it first.
I think that the word is, and this word has been applied to just about every segment of our culture this year, disruption. Disruption, disruption, disruption. Disruption of the political process, disruption of the journalistic process, disruption of the religious. Everything has been disrupted. Whether Trump had any foresight into that, I doubt it, but I just think we are in a revolution that is going on in each segment of our culture, and technology is driving it. The media is, everyone needs to redefine their paradigm, and I just don't know what Wednesday is going to end. I think it's the beginning of something much bigger than any of us really thinks. There's no real return to a status quo.
God, I love that. I think that is 1,000% right. But the only problem is, Brian, you're going to get me to stop saying people don't get it, because I think people are increasingly getting it. Now, I know you're part of us and Rebel headquarters and strong, but I remember the days when strong progressives didn't often get it, right? But I really think that we're in the middle of a disruption, the likes of which we haven't seen before. So, we already had the Golden Dawn in Greece, which is right wing, but we also had I
think Golden Dawn was Die Hard.
No, it was it was Die Harder.
No.
Golden Dawn.
It was Red Dawn. It was
okay.
Red Dawn.
Oh, I see. And then we had the far left party, which actually took power in Greece. We've had the far right parties take power in Eastern Europe. Everybody's saying, and we've been talking about it.
Close.
Yeah, we've been talking about it here for the whole week. Throw a brick through the establishment window. We don't care what happens. Then, of course, I think the shot heard across the world was Brexit. And so there was worries that this election was going to be our Brexit, maybe a Trexit. Okay, sorry.
Is there a studio audience I don't know about?
Have you trademarked that? Yeah. Is there a little R with a circle around it, or a TM, or something?
No, let me pull a Jeb Bush here. Please clap. So anyway, but I think that Brian's 1,000% right. It's not just Trump. It's of course Bernie Sanders. More importantly, Bernie Sanders. And people keep saying like, well, Hillary Clinton got more votes in the primary, so I don't know what you guys are talking about. There's no real, uprising here. No, look, she did. I understand that. I thought they closed too many polling stations on Rhode Island, Arizona. We talked about that earlier. But she got more votes. I understand. Well, that's not the argument. The argument is a guy who almost no one in America knew outside of people who cared deeply about politics, who was the most liberal senator, who calls himself a socialist, rose up from almost nothing in the polls and closed a 60-point lead on a woman who has the biggest name recognition I've ever seen in politics, and the entire Democratic Party establishment behind her. If a guy like that,
unlimited money.
If a guy like that can close the lead and get 46% of the vote, and then Trump beats 16 other Republicans, meanwhile, and Brian's right again on the broader point, it's not just politics. Look at what we're doing here, right? Right now, we talked earlier about how let's beat TV today, right? Let's get bigger people, more people watching us. And you got to understand something. Yes, tonight we probably will not pass CNN in concurrent live viewers, right? But we've already passed at least a quarter of the cable stations. So like that, in the old days, an online stream being larger than a cable show, inconceivable, unheard of, no way. If I showed you the graphs that I see business-wise, what's happening to TV, so above 65-year-olds are actually watching TV a little bit more, like 2% more. Everything else is below the line, below zero. And for 18 to 24-year-olds, the graph goes like this, boom, right? They lost 40% of their 18 to 24-year-old audience in 1 year.
ESPN just had its worst month ever for subscriber loss, and there's no reason to think that next month won't be as bad.
Yeah, and I think we can lay the blame squarely on Colin Kaepernick. On his knees.
John Iadarola with a relevant sports reference. The pronunciation was right. Everything was great. You know he plays soccer. Well done.
Okay.
Real quick. So going back to politics being disrupted, in the last hour we had Nomiki Konst on the show, who is a political analyst, and she made a really good point about the DNC specifically and how the way the DNC operated during this election and the consequences that they paid as a result of that, I think is going to shake things up for them moving forward. There are certain things that they are not going to get away with doing in the future, right?
So, yeah, that's exactly right. And so that's why before Brian leaves, I wanted to ask you the next part of that question, right? So we can go on and on about all the disruption in different, arenas. But when it comes to politics, let's assume for a second here that Hillary Clinton, as the polling indicates, will win tonight. And I'm less certain of that than everyone else. And the results start coming in at 6 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Eastern, and then the big one's 8 o'clock. We're going to cover that here for you. But let's assume Hillary Clinton wins, right? And after the election is called, we're going to have a lot of progressives on here. Adam Green, Robert Scheer, Oliver Stone wanted to join us. He sent me an apology note that he couldn't join you guys because he's in South America right now. He said, what a depressing election, but I can't wait to be with you guys in the next election. Julian Assange might join us later. Okay, so all those progressives, I want to ask you, Brian, what do you think happens next? If Hillary Clinton wins, do we just get, you're saying we're not going to go back to the normal, we're not going to go back to status quo, so what do you think happens?
I think she serves one term, and I think that, as you intimated earlier, I think we, ironically, are right back at Bernie Sanders. We come back to these same themes that are never really going to go away. I think they're here forever. This idea of an economy that benefits the most people at the same time. I think we're going to have to somehow make those ideas thrive with the right person who is in office. It may be mismatched at this moment, but I think she'll serve one term. I think that the field is wide open now for someone to come in and take those ideas that even Bernie Sanders' ideas and turn them into a right-wing cause. The idea of, because that's what we've seen, this topsy-turvy flip-flopping of political beliefs and value systems and allegiances are all kind of mixed up now in this giant potpourri of crap. And I think the field is wide open in 4 years, and someone could sweep in and.
So you mean she'll lose to a Republican, or she won't even run again, or challenged? I mean, obviously you don't know, but I mean,
I think
like
that
in your head, what's that?
In my head, the right Republican can beat her in 4 years.
Yes. So the thing that I think makes it really interesting is obviously whenever someone comes in and, as you say, disrupts things, we wonder, is this emblematic of a trend? Is this repeatable? And I definitely think that there could be another Bernie Sanders. I mean, I've said many times that it sucks that we have this once-in-a-lifetime possibly candidate Bernie Sanders going against a once-in-a-lifetime representative of the Democratic establishment that the Democrats don't typically have. They don't typically have one candidate that everybody knows is likely to become the candidate. It's usually a more diverse field. And so it took the most supported establishment Democrat to fight off Bernie Sanders.
That's a very interesting way of looking at it.
But for 4 years from now and 8 years from now, there isn't another Hillary Clinton waiting in the wings. There isn't another obvious Bernie Sanders waiting in the wings, other than possibly Elizabeth Warren. And I don't think she's as like Bernie as some people think. There's also not another Donald Trump waiting in the wings. I mean, there could be, but there are no obvious ones that we can point to and say, oh, in 4 years it'll be them. And all three of those people that I've mentioned are old people, and they won't necessarily be around in 4 or 8 years. In the same way.
I just want to give this quick coda, is that I see the journalism and electronic media will never, ever remedy itself, which gives much more value and places way more importance on what you are doing in here every day. Because I believe that train will never, ever slow down. It's only speeding up. Politics is driven by self-interest. News is driven by money. Or both are driven by self-interest and money. They're never, ever going to return to a more traditional journalism will never get back to its roots in reporting and purity. Thank you. So this right here will be crucial, critical. You will only grow. Look where you'll be in 4 years. My God, you'll be so important to the process. We don't know what the truth is anymore. We are so fractured. We don't know where to look. All of the fake news sites, all the groups that are creating news stories in our news streams that all look like they're the same, and everyone is basically choosing whatever truth they want to forge their identity. It will be critical that groups that like the Young Turks just continue to forge ahead. And I think we're in real trouble. I really do. I think we're in a new age, and Wednesday will be. There's no resting on Wednesday, no matter what happens. I just think that it's incumbent upon media, someone in media, to keep just searching, digging, investigating, and now analyzing, doing the real work that journalism has stopped doing.
So I agree with you so thoroughly
Anyway.
that I'm only going to add one small thing to it. I really think that that you're so right about the status quo is over. We're done with that. And I know that the establishment won't see it that way. And if Hillary Clinton prevails, they're going to want to go back to the good old days. Well, okay, we're back to sanity. Now let's get another Bush in here and we'll go back to the same old games we've been playing. And they're not going to be able to. But I give that, and I think Hillary Clinton will get primaried from the left. And I think that, and I actually believe that an Elizabeth Warren type of person, not necessarily her, but someone like her, or maybe her, will come up and beat Hillary Clinton in the primaries. Because I think people are so tired of the establishment, they're gonna, if they do today, they're gonna hang on by their fingernails, and then that's it. But the reason why that's so important is because if you don't do that, it leaves the populist field to just the right wing. And that's a terrible idea because populism is going to win. And so it should be the one from the left, not from the right. And to your point, Brian, Charles Krauthammer today talking on Fox News about how there's a civil war within the Republican Party because are they going to go back to what conservatism meant? But, it was always a mirage. The voters actually never cared about, hey, let's do more trade deals. They never signed on to that. The Republican voters didn't do that, right? It's just what they were spoon-fed by the establishment, who gets paid by the same, multinational corporate interests, et cetera, whether it's in terms of advertising or it's in terms of campaign donations. All these assumptions about what a Republican meant, and Trump, turned that upside down. So what is the Republican Party after Trump, after today? No one knows. It's because it was a mirage in the first place. So once you break the status quo, there's a lot of things that are going to come out of that, and some are going to be great, right? Because we need that system broken, and some of them are going to be perilous.
Yeah.
So buckle up, everybody, for what's coming after this election. So don't forget the words of Brian Unger. We need independent media to make sure that we hold corporate media accountable. The people that can make that happen is you. You make the Young Turks possible. tytnetwork.com/join. Join us. Be the revolution.